Hi, I'm Alex Bigzalone. Are you starting Keyshawn Henderson this weekend? Oh, you don't know who Keyshawn Henderson is? Well, we do, and we're here for you. To another edition of the Dynasty Pulse right here on Fantasy Sports Advice Network, terrestrial radio 101.5 FM talking West Tennessee, and the Undroppables. I am Bigz. We got Schultzy on the ones and twos. Grindberg's in the building. Chev is down there. So is Coach. We got a huge guest for you tonight, and we're going to get into it. So let's do that and get into it. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Well. Can't complain, buddy. We're excited to probe our guest, and why don't you tell us a little bit about him there, Bigz? What do we got going on?
Something biggest brains in the business. Something competition stiff. We're stiffer. Today we are joined by Chris, quote, the Cardman. Chris the Cardman, the Shifu of Debbie Dojo. He is a sharp evaluator. He's a natural storyteller and one of the most uniquely entertaining voices rising in the Debbie and Dynasty space. He's a lifelong football mind who went from dominating Madden on the GameCube to mastering every fantasy format imaginable. Chris brings a rare blend of analytics, film grinding, that probably should be grinding, film grinding humor, and that signature narrative pushing edge that has made him a must-follow presence in fantasy circles. At Debbie Dojo, he and Dustin aren't just breaking down prospects. They're teaching the art of talent evaluation and giving managers the tools to identify future NFL stars long before the rest of the community catches up and or gives up on those guys from Penn State. And with both Chris and Dustin leading FSAN's Rookie Guide project this season, you can expect one of the most comprehensive and forward-thinking rookie evaluation teams in the entire fantasy space. We need to play the intro video for him. Let's get Chris the Cardman on here. Yo! Chris, tell the viewers where to find your work and a bit about you. And you are muted, sir.
Apparently unmuted.
Yeah.
Doesn't unmute automatically, apparently. Well, thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. I am primarily found right here on this channel at FSAN on YouTube. I think it's FFAN now because we got bumped up to the main channel here at the Debbie Dojo. So you can find our podcast at Debbie Dojo on audio everywhere you're looking for the podcast these days. You know, Spotify, Apple, wherever. You can check out our beautiful videos with all sorts of fun graphics that I put together for you on that YouTube channel. You can find me on Twitter at Chris the Cardman. You can check us out in our Discord, Empire of the Elite. I'm all over these different places chatting with people. I'm in a bunch of other Discords too, so if you see somebody with my tag at Chris the Cardman, it's probably me. And, you know, you might think, that's a troll, but it's just me being an asshole. So, you know, here I am. Bouncing around, talking that smack. So
using those potty words, I see.
Oh yeah, I know. I gotta cut that out. I apologize. We'll bleep it.
Well, I got a funny story to talk about, Chris, because for some reason you had to fill in at the expo on some of the main panels here.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up. I haven't seen Bigz since the Fantasy Football Expo, and for one day there, I was Bigz in the flesh. I was channeling my inner Bigz. I had to jump in on a couple panels for you because I think there was an accident with some alcohol and a set of stairs, and
the alcohol wasn't an
bathroom
accident.
Door.
Stairs were an accident.
So you put Bigz. You had to put Bigz inside you so that you could do. So that you.
Bigz was in me. I was channeling the Bigz. I was, letting Bigz in.
Wow. Speaking of being in you, let's start the probing. Okay, let's get into the probing.
It was a pleasure being inside you, Chris.
Well,
always fun.
It's always fun. Okay, well, you're going to join us and you're going to break down the next wave of the future NFL stars. Obviously, this 2026 draft class. Let's talk about them. We got some early standouts, maybe some blue chip prospects. We're going to talk about a bunch of different guys, and Schultzy's going to start us off. But before you do, Schultzy, roll the probing video.
All right, first off, we're going to talk about a little bit of combine preview. Every year we get someone or a couple guys who kind of jump out of nowhere, just blow up the combine, and they are just rocket themselves into some NFL draft relevance, and then, byproduct fantasy relevance. Do you see any guys potentially who could do that this year? Show up at the combine, test out, launch themselves up the boards, despite maybe some shortcomings in film or production?
Yeah, I laughed a lot when this was the first question on the show sheet because I'm going to talk about my boy Drew Aller from Penn State, and I'm like, it's if you watch the dojo, I'm a homer. I'm talking about the Penn State guys all the time, and I readily admit that I have a bias, but I truly believe that I would have answered this question no matter what if it was the first question or the last one the same way. And I truly believe that Drew Aller is a fantastic quarterback, and he's going to be somebody that's going to rise up people's boards if he could get healthy in time for the combine. He's going to start making a name for himself out there in Indianapolis. He hasn't really lived up to his super lofty expectations at the collegiate level. I mean, naturally, they went to the semis last year, so he's had some success on a team level, but the bar was set really high for him as a prospect and as a quarterback. And Dustin will be the first one, my co-host, to tell you that he really hasn't lived up to those expectations. But his numbers weren't bad last year. His last full season, he had over 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, only 10 interceptions on his career. He's very, very good at ball security. He set the NCAA record for most passes to start a career without throwing an interception. So he's always been pretty cerebral with making sure that it's going to the right hands, unless, of course, you're watching the 2 biggest games of his career, which both pretty much ended on an interception by Drew Aller. So there's obviously a lot of knocks on this guy, and he's fallen off a lot of people's boards for very good reason this year because it hasn't been pretty, and now he's hurt, and he's going to be flying extremely low under the radar. But I feel like he's got everything that NFL GMs are looking for. He's got a nice big frame. He's got incredible arm talent. He's typically poised under pressure. I mentioned the ball security. He's not exactly a dual threat type of guy, but he's mobile enough that he can be evasive in the pocket and he can chip in the modern game where he can be on some of those design run plays and RPOs and things like that. So I think when you look at him, from an NFL GM's perspective, all it takes is one GM to say, that's who I want to take a shot on, late in the draft or middle rounds or wherever. I think there's a good chance that he's going to rise up the overall prospect board here, if he can get healthy enough to participate in the combine and make a name for himself yet again.
Now, would something that would help him be beneficial? Because I see in PFF, they have him round 4, round 5 draft capital. And we know the allegations are, hey, he doesn't rise up in the big moment, but has big talent, and there's a lot of potential there. And we just haven't necessarily seen it in full fruition, that consistency, because he's been higher on boards before and hyped. So we got a little bit of post-hype going on. What do you think could help him? Would it be a Senior Bowl outing? What are some specific things that might get him up to? And I guess, could he get up to round 2 draft capital, round 3? What would be the realistic spot for you where he could end up, and what would be some good landing spots and fits for him for the next level?
Yeah, great question. I think that when you're talking about quarterbacks, right, there's only about 10 to 13 on any given year that are drafted. So there's really not a lot of quarterbacks that are coming from the NCAA to the NFL on a yearly basis. But this is a particularly weak year for quarterbacks, I believe. Even at the top, when we're talking about guys like Mendoza and Ty Simpson, who I like to a degree, but it isn't the same as it's been in other years prior. So there's going to be, as there always is, a need for quarterbacks on a lot of these teams And I think there's a chance that he could sneak in a day 2. I don't know that he's ever going to be a round 2 pick. If he gets, I don't know if he's projected to get healthy by the Senior Bowl. That would be really nice, because I know this week he was walking around with, no crutches or anything like that. He's been with the team all season since he's been hurt. So he's been very vocal, great leader, teammate and things like that. So he's doing all of the extracurriculars you could want out of an injured guy. So hopefully he can just get healthy enough to maybe participate in the Senior Bowl. That would be phenomenal. I don't know how much Senior Bowl really weighs on people at the NFL level to do their evaluations, but I know that combine means a lot to them, not necessarily from what they can do on the field, but for what they do in the interviews, particularly from the quarterback position. So just being there and being able to talk to a bunch of coaches, talk to a bunch of GMs, I think will be able to help his stock rise a bit. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him go into the 3rd round. But again, when you're looking at this class, it's kind of a crapshoot after the first, handful of guys at the quarterback position. So it'll be curious in general just to see where all of these quarterbacks end up in the draft, let alone where he's at particularly. So I think there's a lot of room for him to continue to crawl back some of that lost value as he continues throughout maybe Senior Bowl, combine, offseason.
So any team fits? Sorry, any team fits that you might like?
Team fits. Let's see here. I think it would be nice for him to go to a place where he doesn't have to have any immediate pressure. So it would almost be funny to see him go to a place like the Packers, where we know for a fact that he'll probably sit for like 3 years behind Jordan Love. And then who knows if the Jordan Love experiment will continue in a few seasons or not. I don't think that there's you never want a rookie quarterback to start unless it's one of those top flight guys, right? So a position like that where he's got a veteran in front of him who he can learn behind, and there's going to be absolutely no pressure for him to have to go in there immediately and start, I think would be a good spot for him. So I'd like to see him have that Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love type trajectory where he's behind somebody for a little bit and sits.
I'm going to throw out another underwear Olympian. Nyck Harbor. Is he going to blow minds at the combine, or you think he stays around for another year?
Nyck Harbor, is he not?
He's not draft eligible this year.
I was thinking he could declare.
Yeah,
I could be wrong though.
He's been around a couple of years.
Was he a 2023 graduate? I thought he was a 2024 guy.
No, he had 2 seasons, and then this is his 3rd year. This is the first year he committed fully to football in the spring.
Yeah, somebody fact check that. I like Nyck Harbor as a toolsy guy, but I don't see him as somebody that I'm going to invest a ton in on the dynasty perspective. I don't have a lot of him in Devy.
I'm just saying his speed profile is
of course, dude. He
kind of
runs
thing
a 10-200. Yes,
right. That blows people up at the combine. He's had problems with drops. He's had problems with route running. His analytics aren't not anything pretty to look at. But the kind of guy like.
There he goes. We kicked him off.
Yeah,
Terrible take. You got booted.
All right, well,
Move this man.
The StreamYard flatline Bigz. That's crazy.
Again,
the Pulse.
He got flatline.
Hey, we got some Bigz inside him.
All right, Coach. What's your question?
I like the Nyck Harbor question though, because we just talked about Lenoris on the last episode of Dojo that dropped today, actually, when we were talking about Lenoris and how the overall talent around him hasn't been up to par. And Nyck Harbor is obviously his best weapon, but because of those drops and because of the receivers not being open and things like that, it's really dampened Lenoris Sellers' overall value. So Nyck Harbor is one of the primary culprits of that, right? So I think he's got a role as a deep threat, but not much more than that at the NFL level.
It's in my opinion, I've watched a little bit of South Carolina, unfortunately, this year. Like it's a project, but he's got the one thing, right? Like this is a generational athlete. Like if you're like expanded out the history of humanity, there aren't very many people with the abilities that he puts on display on a regular basis. But it's just that like the nuance of actually playing football isn't his forte. Personally, I think he should just put on 25 pounds, run a low 4.4, and be a tight end. And they could just line him up, and he's a mismatch nightmare with a 40-inch vertical, running low 4.4s at 260. But at receiver, there's just too much. There's too much gray area, and there's too many things that if you don't know how to combat, defenses can just take you away. I love the Nyck Harbor question though. By the way, he was a 2023 guy. He could declare. He's only 20 years old. The issue is that he just has no idea how to play receiver. So
great summary.
Call him Stephen Hill, if you will.
Yes. That's honestly, I promise you, Schultzy, that popped into my head and I was trying to think of his name. And I was like, there was a guy a long time ago that was super fast and super athletic.
Georgia Tech, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Brashard Perriman comes to mind also.
The next Megatron.
Yes. So, yeah, I didn't mean to. I think the Nyck Harbor talk is fascinating. Like me and Bardman are in a Devy league together, and I think I have Nyck Harbor, but I don't know what to do. But if it hits, it's like generational wealth. Like you have a cheat code, like a Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, if he figures it out. But that's a huge if, because he hasn't figured it out, and he's been playing football for a long time.
Yeah, that's good. All right, Coach. Yeah, what's your follow-up question here or your question for Chris?
Absolutely, awesome. This great show, a lot of fun. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank
question
you.
for you, Chris Braswell from Tennessee. With prospect season upon us, get a lot of bullish traits on guys, right? Best landing spot discussion. I mean, I even had asked you, Drew Alar, what's the most optimal, right? But something I'm trying to do process-wise, can I find the negatives of the question marks for players? Kind of like scientific method. Let's find the negatives. If they're there, if they're not, and we push against, that's even better. So for Braswell, his speed grants some space and coverage, I notice, at the college level. So DBs might give him more cushion and won't necessarily jam him up. In the NFL, do we see that being a problem for him? How defenders, DBs will jam him up? And not that I have this like Jalen Hyatt fear, because there is nuance to quality of how a player can be, and we don't want a helmet scout. But could he become one-dimensional if he's jammed at the line too much? How do you think he'll handle that? Is this a valid question, or is this something that you think he's going to cook defenders and we keep him right now? I'm seeing on PFF round 2 draft capital, and he's always, 5th, 6th. He's getting respect towards that top tier of wide receivers in this class. So how would you summarize any of that, and what is your take on him?
Yeah, I like him a lot. And I always want to say Brazil, but I think it is Braswell, right? Brazil just sounds fun,
It's like Oregon. It's like Oregon or Oregon. Right?
Yeah, I like him a lot. Both myself and Dustin, we have a Substack that we started this year. We both wrote him up in different articles about a month and a half ago, I want to say, when he was really starting to heat up a bit. I like him a good bit. I think for me, honestly, right now, as I'm doing evaluations, and there's still obviously a ton of evaluations to go because we're in the middle of projects for the rookie guide here for FSAN. So we're going to be doing tons and tons and tons of research on these rookies. But right now, I like him the most to be a first-round pick potentially out of all of those receivers that aren't like the bigger names, the Lemons and the Tates and the Tysons of the class. I think like him and Boston are probably the best bets to maybe be in the back end of the first round. And I know that people are going to look at him and say, like you said, Hyatt or Tennessee wide receivers just don't translate. But part of the thing that's been going on this year at Tennessee is they run a little bit more of a pro style offense with a lot of different, adjustments at the, before the snap and different game planning and reads at the line of scrimmage and things like that. So it's a little bit more of a pro style game that he's playing in than we've seen from other Tennessee receivers in the past, which will help him translate a little bit more. And I think he's proven with a lot of his big games this season that he's more than just a true deep threat. And when you look at him, I mean, it's fantastic. He's tall as hell. He's got super fast speed. So you kind of want to put him in that box of maybe being a deep threat, but he's shown a lot more than that right now. And I think that he's having a great season to boost his overall draft stock. But I completely agree with the notion that he could use a little bit more functional game weight, put a little bit more strength on, add some muscle, because at the NFL level, it's a lot different than at the collegiate game, even against defensive backs, right? So if he can get a little bit more muscle on his frame, I think he's going to be a lot tougher for defenses to stall, and he's going to be more of a true mismatch against those defensive backs. He's certainly one of the most volatile wide receiver prospects in this upcoming class, but he has that extremely high ceiling to go along with a seemingly bottomless 4, really. So he's one of those guys who, you might draft him and regret it. And I think a lot of that's going to matter on landing spot. Who ends up taking him? Is he going to have a lot on his shoulders right off the bat? Or is he going to be able to be in a fit, kind of like Jamison Williams right now, where you have a true stud opposite you and you have a lot more room to work because you're not the sole focus of the defense on any given game day. We saw a game after he had like 300 or 400 yard games earlier this season in a row, and then Arkansas jammed him up a ton, and he almost had no catches in that game. And his wide receiver room teammate, I believe Staley, had a huge game in that one because they were like double covering the heck out of Braswell. So that's something that you worry about, right? If you're going to be the only wide receiver expected to come save your team's offense, it's not a great place to be as a rookie. But if he gets an opportunity where there's already an established offense, a good quarterback, and another wide receiver to help him out a little bit, I think he's got a lot of room to grow, and he's got a really high ceiling.
Well, Tennessee certainly does have a type, and we're waiting on Cedric Tillman. We're waiting on Jalen Hyatt. As of 2025, we're waiting on Dante Thornton. We got that 6'4", 6'5", burner. Do you see a lot of difference in his game than the other guys? I mean, 700 yards as a freshman at Tulane, that's a pretty good early sophomore breakout. But 1,000 yards in this season with 9 touchdowns. Do you see a little bit more on the production side of things than with his previous Tennessee Volunteers wide receiver mates?
Yeah, I think honestly Thornton's a great comp, right? Because Thornton had a decent bit of production, and he's got a very similar build as well. And he ended up being a 4th round pick. Am I remember that correctly? Yeah. This last year.
There's a run on Rat Studs, and they all went in the 4th round.
Right, exactly. So the talent there is obviously a little bit higher if I'm projecting him to be around 1 level. And I think the production's been a little bit more this year as well, where he's been stringing those games together. And when you're playing SEC competition and you're putting up 100-yard games, that's fantastic, right? And I know a lot of my friends that are Volunteers fans will tell you that the quarterback situation is god-awful, but it really hasn't been that bad. It's just not as good as it's been for Tennessee in recent years. So for him to put up numbers in this current season, I think is an indicator that he's got a little bit more talent than some of these other guys. And I know me and Chev are Tillman boys. Chev actually kind of swayed me a little bit more to the Tillman boat earlier this offseason. He's in one of those scenarios that we don't want to see Braswell end up in, right? With a quarterback. Well, he hasn't really even had a quarterback yet. This is going to be Shitter's third start this week coming up. So it's been a nightmare for him this year. So you end up in a place like the Browns and you might never produce again, unfortunately. But I still think Tillman's got an opportunity, and I think Thornton could grow here a little bit too in his year 2.
We call that Traylon syndrome.
Yeah.
Chev?
All right. So first things first, Joey Aguilar is a massive upgrade over whatever the hell Nico Llama Red Pajama is. I love everything that you said about Braswell. I do think that there's a little bit more there than what you guys have been talking about it for a while. There's a little bit more there than just the speed demon, like whatever Jalen Hyatt is, like combined with the body style of a guy like a little bit more wiry, but a guy like, Dante Thornton. I really like his upside. So I think that if he goes and runs a low 4.3 at the combine, he's an easy day 2 guy. Like that's he might even, you said it, he might even sneak in around 1. Like somebody gets their britches get real tight. They're gonna pull the lever on old Chris Braswell. So I love everything that you said. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I despise the University of Tennessee with my whole heart. So like it just saying anything nice about them. But Joey Aguilar is much better than Nico Llama Red Pajama.
What? Nico Llama Red Pajama.
Yeah, Aguilar's fun. Fun guy.
Bigz, got a question?
Yeah. Okay. So I want you to give me a prospect of each position: quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. You know the positions that you love.
I do know those.
Nobody else is talking about. And I'm talking about guys like Rocco Beck, Jaden Ott, Jeremy Bernard, Jack Velling, and I'm going to throw this one out there because I've had him in Debbie for the last couple of years. Trebor Pena. So who out there is like hitting your radar, but you're not seeing anybody talk about?
Pena, man, another one. You gotta put these Penn Staters in front of me, right? They're all having a bad year, other than K-Tron. I digress. Going through this, I think first off, too bad our CEO isn't here, because I think Talyn Green is a great fantasy prospect specifically. And I mentioned how the quarterbacks, it's kind of a blend after those top guys where who knows who's going to be drafted where. I think some of that's going to solidify a little bit more, obviously, as we get into the offseason. But Talyn Green is one of those prospects who I look for in Dynasty and in fantasy, because if it's not a guy who has those elite arm talent traits, where he's a true fantastic passer, I want that rushing upside, and Talyn Green brings that. So what I've seen out of him this year, it's the stats won't be fantastic, but he's got almost 20 touchdowns passing. He's got too many interceptions, but he's got a lot of rushing yards as well. And I think that's something that he can bring to the NFL level, where he's most likely not going to be a starter. He's going to be a mid to late round draft pick, and he's going to be more of a project type quarterback for an NFL team. But if he ever gets an opportunity to be in games, his value is going to spike immediately, because he's going to bring a lot of rushing upside. And we see every year people go bananas over guys like Anthony Richardson, all these guys that can run, Justin Fields. And there's always a window, right, where you can really sell these guys if you don't truly believe in them. Yeah. And ultimately that's what we're looking for, right? We want production, and we want a good way to sell that production if possible, if you don't really truly believe a guy. So I think Talyn Green is one of the best bets outside of those top quarterbacks to have some fantasy value eventually. So I like him a lot.
I'm a Hogs fan, and I brought him up on the show before. We had somebody else that we were probing. I brought him up. We got a Malik Willis comp out of him. So I love me some Talyn Green.
Anytime you mention a Razorback to Bigz, you're going to be you look at, he's already pretty red already, and his cheeks are getting redder right now.
Hot and bothered.
Was it the same guy that said that he hated Mekhi Lemon and Denzel Boston and Kevin Concepcion, or was it someone different?
Oh man, it's nighttime, or is there shade out here?
I didn't say anything shady. I asked a question. Was it the same guy?
Saying that.
Did Bigz say that, or what?
No, I asked if it was the same guy. If Bigz asked the same question about Talyn Green to the guy that said that he hated Mekhi Lemon and Kevin Concepcion and Denzel Boston and Jacoby Lane. That's all I asked.
Yeah. I don't remember anybody saying they hated those guys.
Oh, I guess. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe
Anyway, what about the other positions?
Fever dreams.
Yeah, so running back, one of my favorite guys that I've been diving into lately, Demir Claiborne from Wake Forest, is tons of fun to watch, and I feel like he should be on a lot more people's radars. He's been on my radar for a little bit. He's gained a little bit of steam lately, it seems like. But when you watch him, he's just so much fun to watch. He's got a lot of contact balance, and he's a super shifty runner. He's just like a highlight reel waiting to happen, man. He's juking and diving and dodging and ducking and making moves at the last second. He's just a fun smash the buttons type running back who's doing a whole lot of different things to get out of tackles and avoid defenders completely. So if you're looking for one of those guys who might be a riser, because, again, just like quarterback, running back isn't the deepest position this year either. And we've been talking all offseason into the year about how the 2026 class isn't great. So sell all your picks if you have an opportunity to even compete in the playoffs. And I know a lot of trade deadlines are right around the corner. So if you got a shot in the playoffs in your Dynasty League, start selling some of these picks. But if you're holding, or if you have a bunch of them, you're rebuilding, keep your eye on Demir Claiborne, because I think he's a really fun running back. At wide receiver, a guy who I've watched a little bit. I'm always trying to look for those G5 guys that kind of make a name for themselves as the season goes on. There's always those guys who get drafted randomly in the middle of the draft somewhere, and you're like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Nobody's been paying attention to him. Junior Vander III from Toledo. I don't know if anybody's watched any Toledo games. Up. It feels like a made-up name. He is currently tied for third in college in touchdowns. He's got 11 touchdowns on the year. He's produced at every season, at least a decent bit chipping in here. Toledo's had guys before, right? I'm blanking on his name right now. The Steeler. Who was the Steeler that was from Toledo? He was on like 9 teams last year. I'm blanking on his name. But Toledo's had guys produce at the NFL before. And I think that when you
talking about the quarterback,
wide receiver,
the receiver from Toledo,
he was a big time guy. I'm completely blanking on his name. I probably tried to wash that away from me. Yeah. I'm a casual Steelers fan, if you can't tell by up here. But yeah, I think Junior Vander is one of those guys who is one of the best bets to be a potential mid to late round pick. Somebody decides he likes him, in the same vein as a DK or a Tesla or one of those guys where you're just surprised, like, who is this guy? Why haven't I heard of him? And why is a GM taking him in the middle round? So he's produced a lot. His stats are fun. He's fun to watch. He's a little bit undersized. He's only 5'8", but he runs some decent routes. And he's kind of moving, if he's in the middle of being a runner, he's always making those last-second moves. So he's never given up on a play. He's always trying to make extra steps to get some extra yardage. And I like that kind of effort out of guy at the G5. And tight end is such a boring position, right? Nobody actually likes reviewing tight ends, but I'm going to defer to my boy. I haven't even started diving into too much yet outside of the top fives on tight ends yet, but I'm going to defer to my boy Kevin from the Devi Royale. He is talking a little bit about Tanner Koziol from Houston, who's been Connor Weigman's main man this year. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's one of those guys who's been pretty productive in the Big 12 and kind of open very frequently, one of Weigman's go-to guys. And when you're talking about the tight end, that's what I want. I don't necessarily want to see those freak athletes, because then you end up with a situation where you're stuck with Kyle Pitts and you're wondering why you still have Kyle Pitts on your roster forever, and you're just waiting for the next thing to happen. And you can't cut him because the athletic profile is so good, man. Next year's his year, right? But when you're talking about the tight end position on a dynasty level, you just want guys that are reliable, somebody who's going to be there in the middle of the field for your quarterback to get open. And that's exactly what Koziol does. So I think that he is potentially going to be one of those day 2 picks at the tight end position who can climb up some people's boards after the draft.
Sweet. I got him and Debbie.
What were you saying there, Grindberg? Did I didn't swear again, did I?
No, I think I think those were great insights, and guys that are under the radar that are now on our radar. We'll have to look into a little bit more of these guys, and I got a guy that's not under the radar right now, but he's been under the microscope, if you ask me, and that's Jordan Tyson. And injury concerns now are creeping up on him, and dynasty managers want to know. After 2024, he had that breakout campaign. People had him firmly as their wide receiver 1. I was one of them, but I mean, things happen in a season, and then now guys like Makai Lemon, Carnell Tate, Denzel Boston, we mentioned these guys already on the show, are steaming up here. And for someone who's deeply immersed in the dynasty landscape and college trajectory, where do you see Jordan Tyson shaking out in dynasty circles now, heading into 2026 and the draft? Are the injury concerns enough to seriously worry managers, or is he still a top tier wide receiver 1 target who just needs a clean slate of health to reclaim his upside?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Tyson. My boy Dustin was one of the guys who had him as wide receiver 1 coming into the year. And I believe Makai Lemon has now usurped Tyson on his board. Not for me. I've actually bumped up Tyson after this season. He's now my wide receiver 1, and he wasn't before. I like him more than my guy, Carnell Tate. I like him more than Makai Lemon. I think he's a lock to be a first-round pick, and I think he's a surefire top 6 pick, top 5 pick even in Dynasty Superflex first rounds next year. So I like him a lot because, quite simply, he's just a highlight reel in the making. He makes some absolutely outrageous catches. Any given day, any given play could be the best play of the week coming from this guy. He's never not open. He's always finding a way to make a beautiful catch. And I know that he gets a lot of those knocks, as you mentioned, on the injury history and things like that. But I'm not too worried about that, because a lot of it is kind of those fluky things. It's nothing that's been, a consistent, lingering one body part or one injury or anything like that. He had a collarbone last year that took him out of the season and the playoffs. He had a knee injury a few years back. I think he was dealing with a hamstring this year. So it's all different parts of the body. And you don't really want to knock a guy too much for some bad luck. If it was a consistent, it's the same thing over and over again, yeah, there's some injury history there. But when I'm talking about using my first round pick in Dynasty, I don't want to be safe for the sake of being safe. I want to go for a guy who I believe has true alpha potential, and that's what I see out of Jordan Tyson. I think that if everything breaks right, his ceiling is higher than every other wide receiver in this draft class. So for me, he's my wide receiver 1 solely for that tantalizing ceiling. I think he's one of the guys who can produce no matter where he's placed, who drafts him, no matter what. Who's throwing to him, he's going to be open. He's going to find ways to make plays on underthrown balls, on overthrown balls, on balls behind him. So I really like Jordan Tyson a whole lot. And for me, I'm standing firm at wide receiver 1.
Hey, I love what you're cooking there. And even though, rankings, everyone's going to have their different opinion, you have him very much high up there for Jordan Tyson. One thing that I noticed with him, and you kind of hit on it, proprioception is a term. Not everybody knows it. But if you're aware of it, you're like Jordan Tyson, because Jordan Tyson is aware of everything around him. And that is what proprioception is. You understand what is going on all around you. And I just noticed there's just like this ring, this total surface area for Jordan Tyson where, as you were saying, he knows where he is on the field and he can just lean back, catch the ball. He can get it over the top. He can be doing a 360 and know where the football is. Just he has that understanding of where the ball is being lobbed up, cohesion with his quarterback. I know they've followed together plenty. So I love what you're saying. He really does have just excellent awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. And, since I'm one of those sickos who does Devi and, is watching a ton of these guys all the time, all year round, he was making some highlights even in fall camp. And you don't want to go too crazy about what happens in practice or whatnot. But when it's a receiver and you're showing me things on tape from a beat reporter who's taking a video on his iPhone or whatever and just posting that out to Twitter, and you're making those outrageous catches just in practice where you're just kind of having fun, everything's loose. It's not necessarily game speed, but it doesn't have to be because you're just showing off what you got. That's fun, man. And he's just fun. He's the definition of an alpha to me. So I love the ceiling on this guy. And I love what you mentioned about awareness because he's one of those guys who sees the field really well. He's not locked in onto his route and that's it. He's knowing where the defenders are, where he's going to run next. He's not overreacting to things. He's a very cerebral wide receiver.
Do you see any Justin Jefferson to his game?
I hesitate. I'm not the comps guy. Dustin's the comps guy. I'll throw a comp out there if I feel it. And I don't ever want to call anybody Justin Jefferson. Right. Because that's like putting way too many lofty expectations on him. However, I don't think that's the worst comp, right? Because he is that same type of player where he could play at every position on the field, all over, any given route. And he is playing the game with his head a little bit more than some of the wide receivers who are in the NFL right now. And I think Justin is both, a talented guy, an intelligent guy, and a leader. And that's exactly what I see out of Jordan Tyson.
So maybe Aldi version.
Yeah, we'll say Aldi. Trader Joe's. Yeah,
okay.
A little bit pricier than Aldi.
Chev,
Under your head, you got the 2026 101. You're not going to trade it. Who are you taking? Jordan Tyson or Jeremiah Love? Pick one.
I'm taking Jeremiah Love unless Dante Moore comes out. Then I might take Dante Moore if he lands in the right spot in Superflex. I love Dante Moore. Right now, it's Jeremiah Love is the firm 101 for me, and then the 3 wide receivers, Love, Lemon, and Tate, probably in that order. But if Dante Moore comes out, I'm getting more and more hyped on him every day, which is a shame because I flag planted myself as a hater before the season. I didn't think he was going to do it.
I remember.
And I did a whole video called Dante's Inferno where the thumbnail was Dante going like this, and my face was there. He was just dunking right over top of me, flexing on me, because I had to put it out there for the world to see. I'm capable of change, I swear. I might have some biases. I might have some hot takes here and there, but I promise you I'm capable of change when the right things come about. So Dante Moore I'm excited about.
Better to be wrong and then right than never right at all.
That's true. There you go.
Chev,
Unless you're Chev, then you're never wrong.
He's about to win a championship too. So.
What's your take on Tyson?
I forgot where we were. My bad. All right, so I like Jordan Tyson a lot. I'm not going to talk a lot, so I'll just ask my question. So what's the thought process when you got a player who spent time when you spend time evaluating and they don't get the draft capital you want? Are you still staunch in your belief, or do you pivot? And but the inverse with that, what's a guy like you and I have discussed Emeka Ibuka at length, and we're at odds on this. And I never victory lapped when he got off to the hot start because it was way too touchdown dependent. But the volume has been solid, but the results have not followed in the last few weeks, mostly because of the fact that his catchable target rate dropped from like the 70s to like the mid 30s, if I'm not mistaken. So what is your thought process that goes into that? And then also just talk about Chris Bell. I need you to talk about Chris Bell a little bit at the end of this. So yes, all of that, and then throw in some Chris Bell talk for our listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I knew you were going to bring up Ibuka because me and Chev, I call him my greatest friend. I mean, we have a love-hate relationship. I've been his biggest troll for probably like 4 years now, back and forth, way before I was in the content creation game. So I'm always
one of us were, to be honest with you.
I'm trying to sharpen, steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron, whatever the phrase is. But yeah, great question. In general, at the Devi Dojo, our motto is trust your training. So we say that if you're doing the work, you have a take on a guy, you've watched, you've evaluated, you've done your own background, you've made your own scouting report, you've done X, Y, Z, and you feel strongly one way or another about a player, few things should change that. Now, naturally, you have to adapt at a certain point, right? But the game we play is extremely reactionary. People are always making extremely boneheaded moves because of 1 or 2 hot weeks, whether it's from FOMO or because a guy isn't producing and they feel like they got a shot at a title, so they're just going to get rid of him or whatever. But if you firmly believe in a guy, man, you got to ride it out for a little while, typically, right? I use my own evaluation as the primary basis of my evaluation of a player, and then I play the market based around my evaluation of a player. So I'm not afraid to get rid of a guy who I like and then come back to him. I've done that in the past with Jameson Williams. I got rid of him. I came back to him when he was cheaper. Christian Watson, I'm sure Chev remembers, I was a big Christian Watson hater back when he was, I don't remember where he peaked in dynasty value, but I want to say it was like top 15 wide receivers.
Yeah.
When he had a couple big games and that was it. So I was always out on him. And then coming into this year, I grabbed a bunch of Christian Watson because I was like, even though he can never stay healthy when he's on the field, at the cost that you could acquire him in the offseason, like a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, a throw into a bigger deal, I grabbed some Christian Watson and I'm feeling pretty solid about that right now. So you have to be able to adjust your takes and play the market, but you use your overall opinion on a guy as the basis of that. So there's a little bit of cushion room for you to fade yourself a bit. And when you're in 45 leagues like me, you got to fade yourself a bit, even if it, now I'm stuck with a couple McCarthy bags that I wish I never acquired because even though I never liked him, you got to fade yourself occasionally.
It is brutal. Also, we just made a trade for Jameson Williams like 2 weeks ago. Was it?
We did do that.
Or last week? Yeah. So
yeah, 2 weeks ago. I want to say it was before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding as far as the process. Like I can attest that you are 1,000% telling the truth on entry and exit point for buying and selling, different dynasty assets.
And that's what the show is all about. That we discuss that every week. That's why we're here. Is we talk about the market. We talk about how values fluctuate, how you can be in on a player one day, out on them the next, and then back in a couple years later. I mean, that's literally the theme of the show. I'm glad you touched on that. That was brilliant. Now, what about Chris Bell?
Chris Bell, yeah, absolutely. So one guy who I feel like has been having an up and down season a little bit. There was a point probably about 2 months ago where it seemed like he really started to peak and everybody was getting excited about him. And it seems like he's flying a little bit more under the radar right now. There's talk of Louisville's coach maybe leaving. Who knows what's going on? But I like Chris Bell a lot. I wrote him up back in the beginning of October. He is a fast man. 22.0 miles per hour was third in college football, I believe, this year. And when you're hitting 22 flat, that is extremely fast, right? 6'2", 220 pounds. So he's got a really nice frame for a guy that fast. And this isn't one of those weird ones like we were talking about with Braswell where you're 6'5", 6'6", and skinny. This is like functional game weight with just enough height to be a little bit taller than those defensive backs who are covering you. But he's had some really explosive games early on in the season. And I think he has just a great knack for finding the ball. Coming back, we talked before on the dojo about how when you're working back towards your quarterback, that's a great sign for me as a wide receiver, because you're having that kind of like we just talked about, where you have that cerebral intelligence to your game where, maybe you've run a little bit of your route, but that the play is breaking down a little bit more and you just need to get to a position to let the quarterback get the ball to you. So he does a lot of that, coming back, working back towards his quarterback, getting those underthrows, getting those balls out whenever he needs to cut his route short. I think he's a pretty smart guy. We talk about contact balance a lot, specifically as a running back trait, but I think that he's got a lot of that, when he turns into a runner after making a catch as a receiver. He's always making a nice catch and using his big frame to just plow through the guys that are trying to make a tackle on him, which makes him a nice threat for yards after the catch. I think he's got the size and speed to produce at the NFL level. And most importantly, the grit at the NFL level. He's going to be one of those guys who's not going down easy. He's not making a catch and then waiting for, where's the receiver at? I got to get down. He's going to be trying to fight for every yard. And I love that kind of asset in a wide receiver.
Great. That's awesome. Great insight, Chris. I mean, all your answers were really well developed and detailed, and you knew what you were talking about. Our viewers are going to get a lot out of this show today, and a really good landscape of what's really going on in 2026 in the rookie landscape. And we're really excited to see what more you got on the slate here. It's been a great show. Any other follow-up questions before we let Chris hit the road? Schultzy, do you have anything else to add to that?
I love that you talked about trusting your gut and like sticking around with the player. Cause like for me personally, that's AD Mitchell, man. And that may be starting to finally become a thing. Big AD Mitchell truther over here. Glad he's getting a real shot.
I like that. Yeah. I'm excited for AD Mitchell now that he's got a change of scenery, man. I just picked him up in a couple leagues this week. Redraft, of course, cause you can't get him on Dynasty waivers, but I think he's exciting at this point. And I wasn't really like big enough on him to get him. That's the thing that stinks about when you make your own rankings and you trust him so tightly, is that you're going to end up with not having a guy because you're trying to play for other players, right? So I never really ended up with too much of him in Dynasty, but he's been a lot of fun to watch so far with Tyrod the last couple of weeks.
And I think he's going to honestly have this is a showcase for next year, right? I mean, they want to have a compliment for Garrett Wilson. And whatever quarterback they're going to bring in, maybe it's Mendoza, that might be a really good fit for a team that, he's not really a scrambling quarterback. He's a pocket guy. They need to have some sort of weapons around him, and bringing in Mechie. And it just looks like a really good situation for AD Mitchell. And he's been earning those targets. And even when Garrett Wilson comes back, I think he's going to be a very good complement there. He could stretch the field. And as long as he can clean up what he's been known for is those drops, I think this could be a really big thing for them moving forward. Chev, you got something to add to that?
Oh, everybody here knows how much I love AD Mitchell. This is not, I have been saying this since before the draft. I was like, hey, man, I don't understand why nobody likes this guy. What is there not to like? Oh, you're 6'3". Oh, you're 205 pounds. Oh, you run a sub 4.40. Oh, you've got a 40-inch vertical. Oh, you can track the ball in the air. Like a guy who mentored you, like George Pickens. What is there not to? Oh, you just don't like the fact that like maybe he gets moody because he's a type 1 diabetic and his blood sugar is out of order.
I forgot about that. It was so lame.
Yeah.
I call me crazy, but his Texas tape, man, I saw some CeeDee Lamb out of him.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Those comps. Yep.
That's the thing. Is like the ceiling on AD Mitchell is somewhere in the upper tier, like top 15 in the NFL, probably like top 10 talent-wise. It's just that like he has the concentration of a 4-year-old with ADHD. Like it's just all over the place, which is why he couldn't earn his way onto the field. If you're a sicko and you follow training camp reports, he just dominated day in and day out all throughout training camp. But it just so happens that Alec Pierce was entrenched and the organization trusted him. And when he had his opportunity, he blew the opportunity. And they had to let him go because now they're going to pay Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce in excess of like $80 million collectively. So this
Good
is
for them.
him being good. Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way this could go wrong. We didn't just see a team just completely screw themselves by paying Daniel Jones a bag. They didn't completely screw themselves over with that. They didn't draft a franchise quarterback 2 years after giving Daniel Jones a deal. There's no way the Colts could screw that up. Is there?
Is there?
Sure.
Colts screw a lot of things up, man. I gotta say though, I don't want to derail you, but I wanted to finish up my Egbuka chat real quick because I had a second follow up. So our motto at the dojo is trust your training, but my motto at the dojo is just draft Ohio State wide receivers. So Chev has beef because I said he's not a quote true alpha, which I still stand by. However, I always say just draft the Ohio State receivers. That might change now. It might have to be draft the USF receivers because Hartline's gone. But those guys have been very good.
I say we don't helmet scout except for Ohio State wide receivers.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Iowa tight ends, and just running backs from
Saskatchewan Rough Rider tight ends.
Yeah, that's right. Noah Theodore Olivier, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're a gold mine there. All right, Chris, tell everybody. Unless anybody else wants to jump in here, I think we're good. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask Chris one more question.
Yeah, do it.
How do you feel about Gospel George? Where is he at in your rankings?
George Pickens?
Gospel George. Carnell Tate.
Oh, Gospel George. I haven't heard that nickname.
Wait. We've talked about
I don't know if we talked about that one. Carnell Tate. I've loved Carnell Tate for a long time, man. Right now, he's probably my wide receiver 3 only because I love Tyson and Lemon so much. But it's basically a tier, right? It's one tier of 3 wide receivers. And Tate, I talked about it early prior to the season. Nobody liked his route running. I loved his route running. I think he has nuanced ways to get open, and he's really showed that a lot this year. And now that he's really cooking, I mean, Howard, all respects to him. He's a national champion, and he got drafted. But now that Tate has like a true stud quarterback, he can really showcase his stuff, and that is a very dangerous offense with the 2 of those guys running routes out there, him and Jeremiah Smith. So yeah, big fan of Carnell Tate, aka Gospel George.
Gospel George, love it.
He plays like if George Pickens grew up only listening to gospel music, and that's why I
like it. Yeah,
like the ball tracking, like the suddenness as somebody who's a little bit longer limbed, like 6'3", roughly 200 pounds. Like it's I have a type. I have a type, Chris.
So there's like there's
true.
George Pickens, who's the devil on one shoulder, and
there's
the angel on your other one. And
there's just a bunch of angels just singing all the gospel songs around him, so he doesn't do the intrusive things that George does. And so, like he's got the Ohio State pedigree. Like they've brainwashed him into being their next elite guy, and his ball tracking skills are next level to go along with like all of the different ways that he can beat you as a route runner. Like it's just, again, I have a type. I make no bones about it. Last year it was Jaden Higgins. This year it's going to be this guy.
Love it.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do at the NFL. Also, you guys are all non-ball knowers. It was Deontay Johnson. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that name, but he played at Toledo. That was the Steelers wide receiver.
I was thinking of him, but I didn't know where he played. So
I should have wrote that down before I started stumbling through that one. But yeah, Deontay Johnson was the Toledo wide receiver.
John Gruden's the only Toledo player that I knew.
That's all right. Deontay Johnson's irrelevant anymore.
Before we let Bigz,
Darius Alexander,
Bruce Gradkowski.
Yes, also that.
Fun fact about me, I did a Santa passing out presents at a nursing home with Bruce Gradkowski one time.
That's awesome. I love that.
He was the Santa.
The more you know.
And you were passed out?
I was more excited about it than the old folks who probably had no idea who he was, but yeah, it was cool.
There you have it. All right, Chris, tell everybody where you can find all your stuff again, and then we'll let Bigz take us home like he always does.
Absolutely. Check us out. Devi Dojo. We are on the FFAN YouTube. We are Devi Dojo on all audio platforms for podcasts. You can find my Twitter at Chris the Cardman. You can find our Devi Dojo Twitter at Devi Dojo. You can find links to all of the other fun stuff to interact with us, our Substack, our Discord, all that cool stuff under all of our videos and podcast descriptions.
It's awesome, man. Appreciate you coming by. Great knowledge.
Thank you. This is fun. I like you guys.
Yeah, we like you too, man. I mean, even though you're wearing a Pittsburgh Penguin hat, we'll forgive you for that one. It's all good. All right, Bigz. Tell everybody what's going on here.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. Watch all of our shows. It's playoff season, and we are coming at you 5 times a week with loads and loads of playoff stuff to get you through to your championship, including our Fantasy Forecast Sits show that drops today. Tomorrow, we have our Start show that drops. Monday, we'll do a recap of the week and give you waiver wire calls for Week 15 entering your playoffs. Don't forget about Breakfast with Bigz Sunday morning, 8:30 a.m. on the West Coast, 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast. This week, a little teaser. I'm going to have a BBC in my mouth, and you're going to not want to miss that at all. So tune into that. Stay tuned after that for Spilled Coffee, and that's that. And Points After Thursday Night Football.
It's a beverage. It's a beverage. There, Chev.
Pause.
Yeah, he's making beverages.
We got real insidious real quick for no apparent reason.
I don't know what you were thinking. I was talking about a cocktail.
Brother, I didn't know what you were talking about. That's why I called time
that
out.
is a cocktail.
Yeah, you're definitely telling about some.
Yeah. Thinking it.
Tesla. All right, let's.
Bro, I didn't say. Hey, bro.
EG. Hey, we love it. All right, guys.
And we hope you win.
On the pulse. Later, skaters.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.